In this video, we're going to explore what different grouping symbols might look like. In the last video, if you remember, we had fractions, and fractions that had several things in the numerator and denominator, and we considered those grouping symbols. On this video, we're going to look at another type of grouping symbol, and that's the radical sign. So, for example, go ahead and write this problem. Square root of 9 times 4 to the second power. All of that we're going to make sure is under the square root symbol, minus 5. Again, off to the side, write G, E, M and D are together, and we do those left to right. A and S together, left to right. Okay, first thing we're going to look at is for grouping symbols, and like I just explained, the radical sign is a grouping symbol, so what you need to do is make sure you do everything underneath the radical sign first. Now another thing I might suggest is if you have a highlighter to go ahead and to highlight that radical symbol so you don't forget it at the end of the problem. Oftentimes students will do what's inside of the radical sign but then forget that they had the radical sign outside. Okay, so we're going to work inside of this grouping symbol, and first we're going to do the exponent. We have 9 times 4 to the second power, which is 16. Now pay attention, I highlighted that grouping symbol so I wouldn't forget it, so I'm going to make sure I write my radical sign again and bring down what I have not worked yet. Now inside of my grouping symbol, 9 times 16 is 144. And don't forget, put your square root symbol, minus 5. Now notice I still have not crossed out grouping symbol because I haven't finished with it yet. I'm not finished with this grouping symbol until I've gotten rid of the radical sign. So now I have the square root of 144, which is 12 minus 5. I can now cross off G. Within that G, I did have exponents, but I didn't finish the G completely until now, until I did the square root of 144. Now, are there any other exponents in the problem? There are not, so I'm going to cross that off. There is no multiplication or division. My last step is to add or subtract, and to do that from left to right. 12 minus 5 is 7. My final answer in this problem is 7. Continuing on, let's look at another grouping symbol. If you recall seeing in a problem these bars around a number, let's take the number -3. What those bars mean is what is the absolute value of -3. What that is really asking you is if you're looking on a number line and you have -3 on that number line, what it's asking you is absolute value means how far is that -3 from 0. If you take your pencil and you count how many steps, 1, 2, 3, the answer would be that -3 is 3 steps away from 0. If I asked you how far it is to your house, it wouldn't make sense to tell me -3 steps. Distance is always positive. Distance is always positive. You can never have a negative distance. You can never say that I walked -5 blocks to my house. So when you answer an absolute value question, the answer is always positive. With that in mind, let's look at this problem. The problem is 2 absolute value bar 24 minus 6 to the second power absolute value bar plus 15. Now, just so there's no misunderstanding that these are not ones, I'm going to go ahead and highlight them, make them thicker. Those are absolute value bars. Absolute value bars are considered grouping symbols. So again, let's go ahead and write down our order: grouping, exponent, multiplication, division, left to right, addition, subtraction, left to right. The first thing I'm going to do is take care of the grouping symbol. Inside of these absolute value bars, I have a problem, math problem. So what I'm going to do first inside of there is this exponent. So I'm going to copy everything else down to absolute value 24 minus 6 to the second power is 36 plus 15. Continuing on, 24 minus 36. Please be very careful as you do this. This is not 36 minus 24. If you're using your calculator, you put the 24 in first, minus 36. That gives you negative 12. Now again, you want to be very careful because what you highlighted up there, you do not want to forget. Let's continue. We now have 2 minus the absolute value of 12, 2 times the absolute value of negative 12 plus 15. We still have the grouping symbol. The answer to the grouping symbol is the distance negative 12 is from 0 is positive 12. Now what do we do when we drop those absolute value bars? When you have a number next to another number with no symbol in between, it means you're going to multiply. Okay. Moving on, we want to take this problem and we have 2 times 12 plus 15. Let's readjust this and go to the next page. 2 times 12 plus 15. Rewriting that, it looks like this. 2 times 12 plus 15. What I've done so far is I've gotten rid of my grouping symbol. There are no exponents. Now I'm going to do multiplication and division from left to right. 2 times 12 is 24. Then write down what I still have to do. Next, I'm going to do any addition and subtraction I see from left to right. 39 is my answer. For our last problem, let's move forward and do something that has both a square root sign and an absolute value symbol. What happens when we have more than one grouping symbol in a problem? The square root of 324 divided by 3, a fraction is a division problem, plus the absolute value of negative 10 plus 7. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and highlight my grouping symbols so I don't forget them. When I'm done with the problem, I'm going to go back and make sure that I did those. Okay, now moving left to right, I'm going to write down my steps: grouping symbols, exponents, multiplication and division left to right, and addition and subtraction left to right. When you have multiple grouping symbols, you want to start with the first one. The first one is my square root of 324. That turns out to be 18. Okay.
0.25 becomes my answer.
Okay, so now we have 18 over 3. We've taken care of the square root symbol plus the absolute value of negative 10 plus 7. So now I'm going to take care of my next grouping symbol, which is my absolute value bars. So I'm going to rewrite the problem: 18 over 3 plus negative 3, and that's in absolute value bars. Next step, take care of my grouping symbol: 18 over 3 plus the distance negative 3 is from 0 is positive 3. Continuing on, I've done my grouping symbols now. I took care of the square root symbol. I took care of the absolute value. There are no exponents. Is there any multiplication or division in this problem? There is. Whenever you have a fraction, it's multiplication or division. This is division. 18 divided by 3 is 6. 6 plus 3. And my answer is 9.